Welcome, welcome. Today is October 18th, and this is a quick high time frame look at Bitcoin and perhaps some altcoins. We'll see if we get to it. I'm going to be traveling, jumping on a plane, so got to do this pretty quick here, and won't be making another video for probably about a week. Maybe 2 weeks. So just wanted to take a nice little look at the markets here before I take off. If you watched the previous videos, you know that I was very vocal about the downtrend that was in effect, which we have dropped down now into this 8,000 region. And I'm just going to take a look, see if any of my previous ideas about the market have changed, or if we're still stuck in that downtrend. So take a look, we'll see what's going on. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of the channel here. If you are already subscribed, appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you are not, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button. It helps out. There are some links if you want to use a reference link to create a new account for trading. You can use some of the ideas you see in here to trade on that account, and that helps support the channel as well. So, I am Nevermore XBT, and let's take a look at Bitcoin and everything else. Just watched a little replay there, just seeing how some of this stuff played out and how some of these indicators were giving signals there. Let's move. I have the Coinbase chart pulled up here. I'm just going to get rid of some of the noise here so we can see the indicators in the chart a little bit better. I'm going to move up to the high time frame, just kind of see what's going on here. Yeah, I mean, you can see this downtrend in effect for several months now after the highs there. Hasn't shown a lot of interest in any previous levels. We are, though, hitting, if you can see this, from 2018, a little over a year ago, we've just kind of tapped this previous level here. If we pull that up on a monthly, just do a white one, you can see we've kind of tapped that level, and it's right around a level that I have marked already. When we get to the lower time frame, you'll see why here. But that's kind of interesting. That on a monthly time frame, this is the kind of area from about a year ago that I would expect some sort of reaction. Obviously, there wasn't in some of these previous areas here. So that's definitely of some interest here. We're also approaching those long-term EMAs on the monthly. I don't really pay that much attention to them on a monthly time frame, though, to be honest, they mean very little to me at that high of a time frame. On the weekly, however, I do pay attention. And here you can see where that orange line was that I already had drawn on the chart there. So I'm going to leave that monthly up from the previous year, just kind of remembering that that's the previous year. This is the weekly level that we really don't want to see a weekly candle close beneath. As I stated in some of the previous videos, I was expecting price to get down into this region, at least to the top, which it definitely just blew through. And I was planning to place some bids here in the middle, which I have bid in the 8,200 range, 8,100 range. So I have filled some of those, effectively closing out about 50% of my short position at the time. But that idea can change, of course, and the market can prove that it's not ready to go back up yet. On the weekly time frame, the EMAs are trending downward after trending up for quite a while, and that's not a great sign for people that pay attention to EMAs on high time frames. You don't really want to see that. It's not a deal breaker. They haven't flipped back bearish yet, but price has come down and closed underneath both of them. So it is definitely a high risk situation from a long-term investor standpoint. That's not necessarily something you want to see when you're buying. So a lot of long-term investors would be sitting out at this point if they're paying attention to the weekly time frame from a price action standpoint or from the EMA standpoint and MAs and things like that. We could potentially, if we continue trending sideways, we could see a bearish flip there and price come down even more. Obviously, this 6,000 region from 2018 was very, very important. Tons and tons of price action around that level between 6,000 and 6,500. If you were around back then, there was an ongoing joke that the stable price of Bitcoin was now 6,500. So obviously there was a lot of action. You can see on the VPVR, a lot of action in that area last year. So it's not crazy that we could come back and retest that area. It's not great, and it means that likely we see a lot more ranging, huge volatility between perhaps this 10,000 area and that 6,000 area. From standpoint, I was talking about the bearish divergence here on the weekly time frame. You can see between these closes here and these two peaks on the RSI. There's downward pressure there in the MACD and all that, so it confirms that, but it's not a strong signal. The RSI was the strongest divergent signal, and we've talked about that in some of the previous videos. So let's just take a look at this. And I don't love a lot about what I'm seeing here. Technically, on this long-term strategy, this is a no buy zone according to these candles. They're all red right now. We would need to see one of those weekly candles flip and turn blue or green to initiate some buys. Like I said, though, I had a previous plan to buy in this 8,000 region, so I have started to buy. I've not completely closed out my cash position by any means, and if we drop down from here, I am comfortable closing out, taking the loss, and waiting for a new bottom to form. Because if we drop down from here, we're definitely going towards the 6,000 region. I don't see how we wouldn't, unless it was just a quick drop below and then spike back up, and that would just be a nice little trick for the market there. We could definitely see a swing failure come, even maybe a pin bar type pattern develop on a daily or even a higher time frame come down below this previous low on the weekly there at about 746. That's not impossible. It's something that I'll be looking for. However, if price comes back up and we can get price back above that previous weekly close there, that would be nice. That'd be a very bullish sign. If we can close this weekly even above 8,007, that would be nice. Just kind of a retest of this lower area down here, and still all inside this previous area of interest here. And you can see on the VPVR, this area definitely has a little bit more buying, even just if we take only this year as our sample size. If we include all of it, this was previous area of interest, obviously, so nothing too much to worry about there. But if we drop down, there's definitely a volume gap down to that 6,000, mid 6,000 region. And of course, Angelo tweeted about 6,000 and waiting for that level. It's not inevitable, but it's not at all impossible, especially looking just from kind of an EMA standpoint here. We came up after closing below the EMAs, came up, bounced, tested the EMA up here, and have had a pretty strong rejection from it. So that's not something bulls want to see, really. That also kind of coincides with this previous high over here. Those wicks are even nearly identical from this week of the 20th of May into this week of the 30th of September. Let's just mark a couple of these weekly levels, though, so that when we go down to the lower time frame, we can see this is that the highest recent weekly close there. And of course the weekly open from previous. Below that, again, not great, not a good sign overall on that time frame. And it's also price action that's closing below the weekly EMAs. We really want to see the price action come back up. And just to keep in mind, the EMAs long term right now are at about 87.50 and 92.40-ish, 92.50. So those are the EMAs that I'm paying attention to right now on the weekly time frame. And high risk, basically don't trade, don't buy below here. You should be looking for shorts is what this kind of patterning means. So if it bounces up to that level, that would definitely be an area that would be of interest for shorting. A lot of the market would love to short at 9.5 or even 9.7, and that would be an excellent area of interest. But as always with Bitcoin, expect volatility if we get to the prices we actually want to see for an entry, because everybody else is watching a lot of those same areas, especially when they're obvious, like with some of these weekly and daily and 3-day closes in this 92 to 95 to 97 range here. Okay, down on the 3-day time frame. The 3-day time frame is interesting to me right now. Because we have, of course, flipped the EMAs on this time frame and have entered a bearish structure. So, even like 92 would be a shorting opportunity potentially. Anything from the 88 up to the 92 area could potentially be, but I'm not planning on shorting that area unless on the way up, unless there's a strong rejection at that area, and then I might be interested. But I'm expecting a bounce up to those levels and wicks higher. I'm expecting higher volatility if we do get an upward movement from here. Now, the thing that's really interesting to me about this pattern, if you trade candlestick patterns, so here we have a bullish engulfing candle on the 3-day. Then we have this 3-step pattern, and this looks like it could potentially be setting up for a candle right here, that comes back and engulfs this whole area. And that's, 3 white soldiers. It's there's several different names for these kinds of patterns, but if the next weekly candle comes up and can close above that 8.5 or 8.6 level, really, that would be a bullish pattern. And then I think that we would definitely see wicks that come up into the high 9,000 range before we get some continued downward movement. At the moment, I am still expecting downward movement after a bounce, if a bounce occurs, but I am attempting to play the bounce, and we'll be stopping out if we just drop down below these levels. So that's definitely something to watch for there. If we get that candlestick pattern, that is a bullish pattern where the next candle comes up and engulfs these 3 candles as well. Very typical bullish pattern. So it'd be nice to see that one. Okay. Because I don't see a lot of super strong signals overall. Definitely we have entered bearish trends on the daily, the 3-day, and even potentially the weekly here. That is extremely obvious right now. Anybody claiming something else, you could argue, I suppose, on the weekly for a bullish trend, but with EMAs and with price action concepts, candlestick concepts, we have pretty much entered a potentially new bearish trend, or at the very least are consolidating in the bullish trend and not continuing the bullish trend. So there's nothing really by any sort of standard understanding of these trending concepts. There's really nothing that gives a strong narrative to we are still in a bullish trend. At the best, we're consolidating. At the worst, we've entered a new bearish trend, at least short, medium term. So anybody claiming something else probably doesn't really know what they're talking about. So be wary of that if your paid group leader is claiming something to the contrary. And what I mean by that, of course, is that the EMAs are all bearish on the daily, the 3-day, and we've closed below the EMAs on the weekly, which is not a bullish sign by any means. That's a pretty standard concept. Anybody that has experience in markets is going to have some experience with the EMAs. It's not information to trade off of necessarily, but it's good for analysis, especially on high time frames. And it's something that, EMAs, most analysts use EMAs, the very least MAs. And then from the price action we were talking about previously, all of the downward pressure, you can see how we just continue to fail to have any candles that close above previous candles. We want to see one, at the very least two is better, two candles closing one above the other. And we just didn't see that for days and days and days and days and days. And of course, then we got that drop as I was expecting and had previously stated in the videos. So you can go back and watch some of those just to see what we're talking about. Now, we've continued to have that kind of pressure. We actually came up into the EMA value zone here and got rejected. That's a bearish sign, bearish continuation, but it's not an absolute by any means. It does interest me that we're down here. We're hitting this monthly and weekly level down here, which kind of coincides with a daily level. It's all that big candle, if you remember, it's all of that region. We had this week here with down and then boom, very strong candle rejection of that downward movement there back in June. So that's that area that we're looking at here from previous. This is here. So we've come down. We did have this little short-term higher high, but then we got rejected. What does interest me, though, is that if we take a look at the OBV is showing that it is trying to make a higher low there. Now, it doesn't have any new highs, which is not super inspiring, especially considering we had that. That was pretty obvious divergent short term there on the OBV from those highs to those highs. So I don't love that, but still that's technically consolidation. You could argue that this is a descending triangle potentially, but it does have a little bit of a higher low there. So what do I want to see then for the bullish narrative to be real? I want to see this daily candle not close below. I'm going to mark this in red. I want to see the daily candle not really close below that. If it does, I think that we'll come down here into at least this area and potentially form some divergence on the MACD and the RSI. That's what I would be looking for if we fail to hold that as a low on a closing basis. From a candlestick pattern, this little area here right now is creating a 3-stick pattern, which is a continuation pattern for candlestick traders. Not great, not what we want to see. For that to invalidate, we need to close above this 7995, basically 8,000 level. We want to close above 8,000 on this daily to invalidate that. And if we do, then I think it's likely that we see this as the bottom for this movement, and we do now start to move back up. Whether we break the highs or not remains to be seen. Overall, if we look at the OBV, there's definitely tons of bearish momentum on volume. And of course, we have failed to kind of make a strong momentum move on the MACD, even with this area here. The cool thing about this is there's a lot of volatility in this region. I mean, you're looking at a region between 8.5 and 7.8, nearly $1,000. And if you include the wicks, over $1,000 worth of range. And $1,000 at 8,000, that's like 13%, 14% range. So it's a playable range for sure, especially for leveraged traders. High time frame, investors, swing traders and stuff. Like I said, I've started re-entering the market because I had previously planned to do it at this region, but I don't see a lot of inspiring signals in this area right now. So I am being cautious. I am being patient. You know, my video 2 weeks ago, I said there's no rush on BTC. I think we can take our time entering, and that has absolutely been the case for longer term swing positions. So with this trade, I am targeting a gap up into the 9.2 to 9.5 area. That's what I would like to see. And I think we could wick higher, even up to the 10,000 area, without invalidating the new bearish kind of momentum that we have. But that could potentially be a signal that we are doing a real reversal. I would want to see it come up to that region, though, and come back down without breaking the lows and creating a new lower or a new higher low at that point. You know, so that would look something like this, for example. You know, whether we stop here or not and come down, come up here, and then we come back down, something like that. That would be a movement that I would want to see if we were going to have a real reversal. Not really expecting that. Like I said, I am expecting it to come up, to bounce somewhere in this area, come up, and then potentially continue down. Maybe even create a pattern like that. You know, something along that. Could be a little head and shoulders pattern there, swing failure pattern, whatever you want to call. I'm expecting something like that for now, but I would happily change my mind to be a bull if Bitcoin can prove that it's not going to drop down to new lows first. But that is still what I am expecting after we bounce. You know, we could see some spikes down just to really convince people that it's dropping from here first, or it could actually drop from here. I've closed out about 50% of my short positions overall, but I do still have cash reserves on hand in case we do drop down from here. And if not, I don't mind buying higher. I don't mind buying after we breach this weekly level here and close above it. But that remains to be seen whether that's going to happen. Over on the other side, I do have some other indicators up just to show you. One thing that is making me, you know, a little bit more confident in my previous idea to start buying in this level is that both Nick's indicator, the alpha exhaustion indicator, showed some exhaustion and possible trend shift. And then my load dump indicator also showed a potential trend shift. It closed out its short position from up here in the low 10,000 region. I had already previously started to close out of my position before that signal. So I was, I believe, entirely out of Bitcoin at that point. So that was just a confirmation signal for me when I got it. But we do see that it has the potential to flip here. Down movements like this in the opposite direction are not uncommon, especially after a big, strong movement like that. Doesn't invalidate this signal. It's just part of that high time frame where there has to be a little bit higher volatility that your position can withstand. So still going to be watching that. You know, we'll be on a plane for a few hours, so I might just do the Wi-Fi on the plane so I can keep watch. But you know what? I really want to not pay attention to it. I want to take a break. So I think I might avoid that and just let the position sit as is with the stop losses in place. Overall, in the high time frame, I mean, those are kind of my thoughts. Like I said, I don't have a lot of strong opinions right now because I don't have any strong signals. You know, just to go over a couple things, like there is some bullish divergence on the RSI, you know, from here to here, but we got to pop up. Did it play out? It's hard to say. So far, because the daily has not closed back below that level, that divergence is not invalid, but it's also a pretty short time frame divergence. So take that as you will. If we get a divergence on the MACD here, that would be a much stronger signal, and it would also be a divergence on the RSI. Unfortunately, it probably would not be a divergence on the OBV, but that's not a deal breaker. And that would be if we come down here and we close somewhere down here below these lows. That is actually a pretty likely scenario, in my opinion, at this point, especially given this movement and the fact that we had a strong rejection up here at the EMA value zone, and that we've just had kind of continuation, nice little swing failure there. We've just had some continuation ever since. So, and when I say swing failure on this, I'm talking about Dow swing failure patterns, not the stuff that Trader Dante talks about. That's a different swing failure pattern. This is a Dow swing failure. It comes down, creates that pattern. It's just a little zigzag. Elliott wave traders also watch for that kind of thing. That's a pretty common pattern setup. All right. So, like I said, yeah, bullish divergence on the RSI potential. So, here's something I want to show you guys. Just if you look at the daily here, there's this. This is a bullish continuation divergence here. So we had lower lows on the OBV and higher lows on price. So that's between those two things. The problem is that that's invalid if we come down here and we start closing below that low. It's no longer valid. And it's not a very strong signal, so it's not something that I'm like, yes, that's amazing, I'm going to trade full-size position. No, that's fucking crazy. Like I said, there's no strong signals right now that we are going to stop going down, that this is the bottom, anything else. The only thing, in the bull's favor is, oh, this was previously the range low, so maybe it will be again. And it's still holding this as a low on a closing basis. But again, these things are just like, they're not very strong signals. So from a high time frame standpoint, there's nothing really that's like enter here, other than the fact that we are here by the weekly and the monthly levels of previous support and resistance here. That's the most interesting super high time frame signal in my mind at the moment, and some bullish divergence on a much shorter time frame here on the daily. But otherwise, the alpha signal is saying that this move was exhausted and it's been consolidating ever since, but a new move can develop, and so far those candles are turning red, just like the candles on my system signal here are turned red. So not really a good time to be buying for those long-term signal systems. My low dump, though, does say that this is a place that's worth taking a bet on. So like I said, I have closed out about 50% of my position, and am about 50-50 right now cash Bitcoin, other than my alt positions. Let's talk about those. We can take a look to just real quick, basically the same kind of thing on the BitMEX chart. Nothing to report differently there. Just to be clear, I'm looking for the potential for divergence to develop here at the lows, or for us to come back, close above here, start to move up into that 9.2 to 9.5 region at least. Those are the two scenarios I'm looking for. I don't expect a continued strong downward movement into the 6,000 range yet. I'm okay if I'm wrong. My position will stop out. I'll be back mostly in cash. I'm ready for that scenario. I am prepared for any of these possibilities, and that's why I'm being cautious right now. So those are the things that I am looking for and expecting. We see all the same stuff basically on the BitMEX chart. Everything agrees with the Coinbase chart right now. XRP, I've got the USD chart here on the left-hand side. I have the Bitcoin chart here on the right-hand side. both have entered daily bullish trends. If we pop up here to the weekly, we definitely, short term, there was a little divergence here, a little bullish divergence between those two weekly closes, and we have started to pop up. That would be a hilarious place for the low to be in. It would just be kind of right in this previous region down here. But it's not out of the woods yet. It's up here. It's underneath the long-term EMAs on the USD chart. And it is still, well, I say underneath. The EMAs are flipped bullish, or flipped bearish rather, and price is underneath the slow EMA on both charts, but it is entering that value zone. Now you can take that as either sell your position and wait for it to prove it's bullish. Not a terrible idea, especially if you're trading the lows up to, that kind of an area. That's a pretty common strategy. Or you can take it as enter once it flips those bullish, or when it comes back down to bullishly retest the fast EMA. Those are high time frame EMA strategies. But if we come down here and we look at the 3-day is flipping bullish on the BTC and flipping bullish potentially within the next 2 weeks. But on the daily, both the USD and the BTC chart have flipped bullish. And what that means to me is that I am looking for entries. I am not looking to short unless I see significant divergence develop on the chart. And I do see some bearish divergence on the OBV, on the MACD, and the RSI, but it is not significant divergence at the moment on the daily. So it's not of a lot of concern. It's just telling me that we're likely to see a downward movement on the USD chart here for XRP soon, and that will give a new entry. The BTC chart, this is wild. There's definitely some divergence on the MACD. Not really on the OBV, though, which is interesting. Let's get rid of some of this just so we can see better. I would expect us to move down on both charts, though, soon, within the next week or two, and give new entries for XRP. So I'm going to continue trading this. If you've watched some of the previous things, I was buying XRP all kind of throughout this region, slowly building a position because I did believe that we were getting very close to the bottom based on some of the weekly time frame. And I'm going to continue to hold that position long term. That is a swing trade. So what areas? I'd definitely be looking to if we got a chance to buy at the 26 area, that would be very interesting. I doubt we will, though, honestly. Maybe the 27 region, but with XRP, it does wick like crazy, so it could wick down to even 25 and then quickly get bought back up. And that's on the USD chart there. But the main thing is when trends enter a bullish, or when a new trend develops on both the USD and the BTC chart, that becomes super interesting to me as a long-term swing trader. For those kinds of positions, that is a very, very interesting kind of chart to me, and that's a chart that I can continue to trade over and over as long as that trend remains in effect. So XRP is one that is trending bullish now on the daily on both, and I will look for that to continue. I expect a trend to continue as long as it does until it ends, and I will continue to trade it as long as it does, buying and selling once highs are reached or divergences are reached on that chart. Okay, just some little illiquid shitcoins here. These are both under 30 million, last I checked, total market cap. This is LEND or AAVE and Matic. These are both BTC charts. I am actively trading both of these pairs. The LND pair looks like it's a little exhausted. It needs some pullback. but I am still targeting the 100 to the 120 region for a possible place to take profit on this trade. If you're in Discord or you looked at some of the previous videos, the last time I bought was at 40 here, and I was buying in the 30 region as well, the mid 30s there. So that, I'm just going to say though, an average entry around 40 for now, because I'm not looking at my spreadsheet, so I don't know exactly where the average entry is. So this one, I mean, it's not a huge position by any means because it's a crazy illiquid shitcoin, so I'm not going to put too much in. But it is a significant, it's up over 90% from the entry, and it hasn't even moved that much. If you look at this coin long term, you know, holy shit, look at this thing. It had so much drawdown, and its major area was up here in the 200s. Obviously, we've got to get through this area, which is that 100 to the 120 region that I was talking about, which is why I'm looking to potentially take some profit in that area and let it kind of prove itself that it can get out of that area. For these shitcoins, the weekly time frame is pretty big. 3-day shows the same region though, and that's why I expect it to be an SR flip region. So can take profit near the top of that region and then buy back near the low of that region if the opportunity presents itself and it doesn't just do something stupid and spike up. But it is a highly illiquid shitcoin, so not unreasonable for it to do that. You know, the 56 through 62 region looks interesting for potential buys if it does come back down to that area. So if this is something that you are interested in trading, that's an area that I would look. If it doesn't have that much energy to go down, definitely the 63 region to the 65 region would be an area of interest as well. Matic, this one, my average entry was about 129 on this one, and it consolidated there for just weeks before this upward movement. We have come up, nice spike up here. My original target was around 161. Bagsy and I were actually discussing that one day in his Discord, and it did hit that target and blasted right through it. So this is one that has come back down. It's testing the EMA value area again. But just from a chart standpoint here, I'm kind of expecting it to retest this 156 area to the 168 area. It's already tested kind of the middle of that range, so it wouldn't be impossible for that to be as low as it goes and it to continue upward. But I am looking for this 230 now to 250 range as a potential profit-taking area. I'm looking for this to turn into a consolidation and continuation pattern here for it. I don't see any strong signals as to why this would be the top and then it would continue to a new low. I really only see reasons for it to continue upward right now, especially if you look at the consolidation on the OBV. It's just consolidation upward, and I expect that to continue for this to spike up. This trade is actually about 5 times the size of the LND trade, so it is a little bit larger position. Still small position though compared to my total holdings because, again, a liquid shitcoin, it can very easily become impossible to exit, but this is one of those Binance Launchpad coins. So I expect these to have some very interesting movements within the next several months. And it looks like it could be the start of it. Here's the thing with these shitcoins though. Unless they really just balls to the wall fucking fly, you know, the majority of the time, even when they're moving up, if Bitcoin is moving down, you're still losing money. Cash is the ideal position, generally speaking, because it will always outperform altcoins when Bitcoin is moving down. It's a really hard thing to actually put into practice, but I've seen it happen over and over and over again. So in order for these positions to continue actually making money, Bitcoin needs to hold this low short term and needs to move up at the same time. You know, if you just go back, compare charts, compare fucking, you know, Bitcoin charts to the USD and Bitcoin chart of the altcoin. If you look at the three and how they compare, the only time you're actually making money is when Bitcoin is moving up at the same time that the altcoin is moving up against the BTC pair. And logically, it makes sense if you really think about it, because if not, then you have to be moving up faster than Bitcoin. You have to be, it's a greater percentage up for the altcoin on the BTC pair than it is for the Bitcoin pair down in USD for you to actually make money. Think about it. You can compare, you can look at some of the charts and see what I mean. Anyway, so I am planning to continue adding to the Matic position, building it. I'm going to be waiting to build any more on the LND because this one has some high volatility, so I want to see it come down first. But the Matic pair looks like it's started to come down, so I have started to add a little bit more to that position, and will continue to add to that position down into the mid kind of 150 range here if I get the opportunity. All right, that's some shitcoins. Let's talk about this one real quick too before I go, because this is one that I have been trading. I started buying this a little bit too soon, but I started buying in the 20 and 19 range, and it did drop down to the 16, 17. I did not add any more at that area. I did stop out once when it first dropped below 18, but once it got back up and showed me that it had some life in it, came back into this 18 to 20 range, I did rebuy this position. You know, I was just playing that one safe because I was thinking it could really drop down lower after it dropped below that low at 18. When it didn't and it got back above it, I was very comfortable buying, and that did turn into an SR flip. So overall, this one is going well. It's come up to this previous area here. Nice little U pattern. I don't expect it to come back down to new lows, really, honestly. You know, long term, let's take a look here. Yeah, I mean, the OPV on that one looks pretty good. There was some divergence here into that low, extended divergence on the 3-day. That's too big of a chart for this coin. And we did see a little bit of divergence between here and here, definitely. So, had the divergence on the daily for sure, possibly on the 3-day there. And we've since come up. The daily OBV on this is insane, but they're so illiquid, it's hard to get good signals on this shit. I would really just look at the patterning here. We've come up, we've done this nice little kind of reversal pattern back into the previous area. Look for it to pop up here into the 37 to 40 range, and then possibly come back down to the 31 range to do a nice little SR flip, higher time frame here. I could see that happening over the next 3-4 weeks at least, maybe a little bit longer if it consolidates along here first before it pops out, or if it comes down and does a little kind of cup and handle sort of thing. Although, here's the thing with cup and handle patterns. Crypto people use them all the fucking time on all kinds of time frames, and they use them as reversal patterns like this. I do not trade them. I do not trade them on, especially on reversals, because they are typically a continuation pattern. So not something I really look at, but I know people will call it that if it does come down here and it forms that kind of a pattern. But again, I would just be looking at the horizontals here and be looking for it to do a nice little SR flip. That's a continuation, and I will be interested in adding to that position if I can see something that's worth really adding to. If we come back down, I might be willing to add to this in the 25 to 23 region here. Okay, so those are some shitcoins. Lots of fun. Where could SIA be headed? 70, this area, 60 to 70. That's a 3x from those 20s there, that would be a wonderful little pump, and I'd be very interested in that and possibly taking some profit, swing trade basis, if we hit up there. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. That was way longer than short, as I had advertised. Thank you so much if you stuck with me. High time frame look. I'm sorry I can't give you as definitive of an opinion as I could when we were up here. I was very strongly bearish in this region. But now we've come into a region where I was planning on buying, and I don't see a lot of strong signals. What that typically means to me is that the market is getting ready to trick everybody, as often happens. So that's why I'm trying to make a little bit of money off the trickery, if possible, and if I'm wrong, not lose too much. Long term, though, a lot of altcoins do look like they have started to enter new bullish trends. We just need BTC to find a bottom and start moving up in order for those altcoin positions to really start making us some money. So that's what I'm looking for to happen. Don't be afraid to exit your altcoins. You will miss trades. You will miss some pumps that are 3x and 4x. Don't try to catch all of them, or else you'll always be a little bit behind and chasing those pumps, and you're just going to lose money like so many people did in 2017. All right. Thank you so much for being part of the channel and joining me. Please feel free to share these videos, around social media, wherever. Like, comment on the videos. It helps me out. If there's something somewhere that I've missed, if there's a signal, love to hear about that as well. I'm going to be traveling, so I'm going to be doing a little bit less trading overall, but I will still be keeping up with charts, and I'll be active in Discord. Today, in Discord, if you're watching this on the 18th, we actually have the FTX people, the Alameda people. They're going to be in the Masons Discord with Nick and a few of the other guys. They're going to be answering questions and talking, so make sure you catch that. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That is in, from the time recording this, a couple hours, but by the time this is posted, that's going to be probably in about an hour. But it's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that they are going to be doing a great little talk, AMA kind of thing in the Masons Discord. Link for the Masons Discord is in the channel description, so feel free to get in there and join. You just have to create a free Discord account. The first, you can't comment or talk for the first few minutes. Your account will become active, though, about 10 minutes after you join. So feel free to go in there, check out some of the channels, some of the educational material, videos, things like that from the past, and get yourself oriented, and then feel free to chat with people in the trading chat or general chat. So if you're not subscribed, please go ahead, take a moment to do it. There's the subscribe button right in the video here at some point, and of course right below. That helps. Use the links for setting up some new trading accounts if you'd like to help support the channel. Those reference links help pay for the time it takes to make these videos and all that jazz. Hit the notification button so you get notified when I'm posting videos, when I'm doing live streams, or when I'm doing live streams with other people. If you didn't catch it, I was on Nick Core's live stream from just a couple Sundays ago. We were on there with the Coin Bros and Charles, ETH from Twitter, and Albie and a few others, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great time just discussing markets and what's going on with the Bitcoin ATMs the Coin Bros are doing and all that stuff. So make sure you take time, watch some of Nick's videos, and subscribe to his channel as well. All right, I'm out. Have fun. Get in there, make some good trades. Don't lose too much fucking money, guys. I'll see y'all again soon. Enjoy.